Oh, hey.
Hey, thanks for meeting me here on such short notice. This place isn't bugged, is it?
Bugged? Wait, Jamie, what's going on?
It's just, you're my only lawyer friend, and I need your professional opinion. Do you see that brand new Hyundai Tucson out there?
Yeah?
That's all I paid for it.
I think I need to get back to you on that.
Do you know what you want?
Yeah, I do now.
Deal's so right, it almost feels wrong. Get the car or SUV you've always wanted, plus America's best warranty at the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event. The guilt is real, but so is the savings.
Listen, I don't want to get in your business, but if that's all she paid for it, I'll have what she's having.
It's a great day for a new Hyundai at the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event going on now. Get 0% APR for 60 months, plus 0 payments for 90 days on all Hyundai Palisade, Santa Fe, and Santa Fe hybrid models. And check out our other great deals at your Hyundai dealer today. Offer ends September 2nd. Call 562-314-4603 for details.
Audible's romance collection has something to satisfy every side of you. When it comes to what kind of romance you're into, you don't have to choose just one. Fancy a dalliance with a duke, or maybe a steamy billionaire. You could find a book boyfriend in the city and another one tearing it up on the hockey field. And if nothing on this earth satisfies, you can always find love in another realm. Discover modern rom-coms from authors like Lily Chu and Ali Hazelwood, the latest romantasy series from Sarah J. Maas and Rebecca Yarros, plus Regency favorites like Bridgerton and Outlander. And of course, all the really steamy stuff. Your first great love story is free when you sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com/Wondery. That's audible.com/Wondery.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Waiting to rise again.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the moment you've all been waiting for.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from Mercedes-Benz at Baton Rouge Studio downtown in the capital city on this Football Friday. Means we're brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. Jacob Beck, Cassie Spazali back there on the ones and twos. Could not be more fired up for you to be with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. If you're driving around in the capital city currently, it's nasty. It's wet. Be careful. Stay dry. Stay safe. And let's have a heck of a Friday afternoon. If your work week is over, I salute you. I applaud you. If it's not yet, we will get you to the finish line here on this Friday. LSU and Clemson tomorrow night. You know it. You're ready for it. We'll do our part to help get you even more ready for that over the next 2 hours. Preston Guy with us in 15 minutes. And I'll be quite candid with you. I'm going to talk a lot about LSU and Clemson today. I care a lot about LSU and Clemson. I don't care as much about the other things going on. And I'm going to talk about LSU and Clemson a lot because I feel like I have a lot to say about LSU and Clemson. So we'll get to all of that. We will certainly do my SEC picks against the spread. Just a white-hot start for me last night in Columbia, Missouri. Nailed that pick. We're 1-0 on the season. You can't do any better than that. We'll do that at 2 o'clock. We'll have some take it or leave it. And my final pick for Tigers and Tigers at the end of the show this afternoon. So let's get things started the way we do every single day. That is with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
All right, we broke the news yesterday that A.J. Haulcy would potentially not be available for LSU, but we didn't know by the time we got off the air yesterday. We now do know. So I'm going to do the unimportant part first, and then I'll do the important part second, if that sounds good to y'all. Here's the unimportant part. A lot of LSU fans, not all of LSU fans, there are differing opinions on this entire matter, but there are a number of LSU fans that are saying, Clemson, you're twerps, you're scared, you're Bush League, they called LSU in, Dabo's a snake oil salesman, I'm ticked off at Clemson, screw you. This shouldn't be a thing. They're trying to wiggle their way out of helping LSU's better defender player out there. I'm not really on board with all that. Here's what I know. I know he was ejected from the game, and I know that a fighting ejection carries a suspension. I know that Houston didn't play in a bowl game. I know that LSU is A.J. Haulcy's next game. Do I know whether or not it was unsportsmanlike on the field or fighting? No, I don't. Do I know that the Big 12 made a change? No, I don't. Do I know that Houston called Clemson to rat on LSU? I do not. Do I know that Clemson held this in their holster until 48 hours to game time and then do it? I do not. I don't know those things. So I'm not going to get up in arms about them. I'm just not. You can. It's perfectly within your right to get up in arms about them. I'm not going to operate that way. Here's what I do want to operate in. A.J. Haulcy's not going to play in the first half for LSU. What does that mean? And because of the fact that we have gotten such essentially unfettered access to LSU practice in fall camp, I feel like I've got a significant amount of information to pass on to many of you that have not been at practice. And so what I have seen at practice is that A.J. Haulcy is the best safety on the team. I see his instincts as being the best. I see his quickness as being the best. And then I go to the statistics that he's put on paper for the last 3 years, and that matches up. There's a reason why I told you the first week of fall camp, A.J. Haulcy is going to start. He was not working with the first team at that point. I said A.J. Haulcy will start because all of these things added up to a starter to me. And very quickly, in August, by week 3, A.J. Haulcy was getting all the number 1 reps at safety. So the guy that you will be missing in the first half is important to the defense. Absolutely. And the guy that you will have in the second half is important to the defense. He's not suspended for the whole game. He's not hurt. He can't play the first 30 minutes. He will help in the second half. It hurts you not to have him in the first half. Okay, how badly does it hurt you not to have him in the first half? Well, that's what we're going to find out. Tamarcus Cooley will be one of the safeties back there, and then you will have one of 3 players filling in for Haulcy. It'll be Javian Toviano, it'll be Jordan Gilbert, it'll be Deshaun Spears. I cannot tell you right now what that order is going to look like. Now, Brian Kelly does some interesting things with names and position groups at the podium in press conferences. At times, he fudges names. At times, he forgets a player here or there. I don't really care about that, but I know that it happens. He called Josh Thompson Justin Thompson a week and a half ago. He's the right guard. Said Justin instead of Josh. Whatever. Don't care. But he did say Deshaun Spears' name first yesterday. Could be a clue as to what LSU's trying to do. Maybe just a coincidence, and that's the first guy he thought of. Deshaun Spears is big and can really run. I have no idea about his instincts, and I really don't know a lot about his tackling ability. What I can tell you about Deshaun Spears is that he immediately looked the part when he got to LSU, and I thought this time last year, right before the game against USC, hey, Deshaun Spears is going to play a lot for LSU this year at some point. And he played the last play of the game defensively where USC scored the touchdown last year. And then he really got eased in over the course of the next month. And they had the first bye week. And after the first bye week was Ole Miss. And at that point, the LSU staff, Jake Olson and Blake Baker and Brian Kelly, determined we're going with Jordan Gilbert and Sage Ryan. They're veterans. They're playing. So we're not going with Deshaun Spears. He's going to sit. And we're not going with Kylan Jackson. He's going to sit. And those guys didn't really play the rest of the year. Kylan Jackson transferred out. Deshaun Spears is still here. But he did not do anything over the course of that month to earn playing time over a pair of guys who were veterans and candidly did not play very well last year. Sage Ryan is gone. Jordan Gilbert was hurt last year. Now he's moved in. Jordan Gilbert has moved to star. I don't think that's a ringing endorsement of what they've gotten from him at safety. Because if you've been out to practice, which I have, obviously, you've seen Jordan Gilbert start with the ones as a safety. He was out there with the first team as a safety for the first week and a half. And then he wasn't. And then it was Cooley and it was Haulcy, and Gilbert moved up to the star spot. So clearly you're seeing a separation there in ability and production at practice. Do they move Gilbert back to his old spot? He knows the defense. It's not a new coordinator. It's not a new position coach. He knows that spot. He's capable of playing it. To what level? It wasn't great last year. How much of that was because he was hurt? I can't answer that. I think Toviano's probably third up here. That's my opinion. If he starts the game, I will not be stunned. That's how close I think this three-man race is. The question is, how badly does it hurt? I got a text from a buddy yesterday that said, hey, why is the line not moved? Well, he's a safety. It's not the quarterback. It's a half. It's not the whole game. I can simultaneously believe that A.J. Haulcy is one of LSU's best defenders and also believe that LSU should have a person capable of going back there, playing safety at an adequate level for 30 minutes of football. And I believe that. This is not, your all-American edge rusher playing against a team with a vulnerable left tackle and an all-American quarterback where you need him to neutralize that. You've got veteran DBs. Stamps is a veteran. Delane's a veteran. Cooley's a veteran. Perkins has been there a while. I'm going to group him into this group as he plays down there at the Star. Gilbert's a veteran. This is not a new group you're putting out there. You don't have to rush a true freshman 3-star to the field. This is not Cal or Purdue. You've got veteran 4-star players, Power 4 transfers that are ready to play safety. I don't believe it's going to be backbreaking to LSU. Now, if you play one of those backup safeties and he's coming down to fill the rush lane off the edge and whiffs on Randall, the running back, and he takes it 65 yards for a touchdown, well, that'll be pretty obvious. So all of us go, well, that's not great. If there's a one-on-one coverage spot and Williams goes up and makes a heck of a play and scores a 70-yard touchdown because you didn't have A.J. Haulcy out there, well, we'll be able to diagnose that. I don't anticipate that. I think the guys that LSU has in the secondary are good enough to function. It hurts LSU defensively. It doesn't cripple LSU defensively. And oh, by the way, the other 10 guys that are going to be out there on defense, I think are really, really good. I think this is going to be a small inconvenience on Thursday and Friday, and I think it's going to be a blip on the radar on Saturday. That's what I think. You can call that being a homer. You can call that purple and gold glasses. You can call that naive. I don't think this is going to cripple LSU's chances. I will stand here, actually sit here. I will sit here and tell you I was wrong on Monday if that's the case. And trust me, I realize LSU's safety play last year wasn't good. In fact, it was bad. And Haulcy's brought in to fix that. But we're talking 3 possessions here, 4 possessions here. Just play your assignment. 4 possessions. And this is not something that's been abrupt in the sense of a targeting penalty. You now have the ability to put your minds together as a coaching staff and go, okay, here's what we like to do with AJ here. If we think that we're exposed a little bit at safety, let's change a little bit of how we want to operate. And I realize that can sound like a really big deal, but maybe it's not a huge deal. I think the depth on LSU's defense has insulated it from blips in the radar like this. I think you can recover from Jamari Butler missing a quarter and a half or 2 quarters. I think you can recover from Jacoby and Guillory having an injury. I think you could recover if PJ Woodland rolled an ankle. You've got depth on this defense. It's now time to show that in the first game. And guess what? When you come out of that halftime locker room, AJ Haulcy will be ready to go. Last thing on this, because Charles Handegriff and Richard Dixon talked about this on Live at Lunch in one of their first segments. Does it impact the way you handle the coin toss? Because you have a key defensive player who won't be there in the first half, but will be in the second half. Do you want to take the ball in this instance because you want to put your offense out there and maybe you play one less defensive possession without Haulcy? And I understand that line of thinking. I absolutely do. I would not abide by it. I do not want to put LSU's offense in that offensive line, in that hornet's nest, across from that defensive line to start the game. There's jitters. The crowd is at its fever pitch. No. Put the defense out there and let Clemson have to go the length of the field to create something to start the game. Plus, I want the ball to start the second half. I understand the thinking, and I don't think it's unreasonable. There are some things I tell you, that's wrong. Don't do that. This is not that situation. I can understand the other side of the coin. I don't think I would do that. I want the extra possession in the second half. I want the potential to sandwich possessions before halftime and after halftime. And I don't want to put the offense out there in the hornet's nest to start the game. I want the defense out there where the crowd's going to be a little bit subdued and everybody can get their jitters out while LSU's on defense. That's my opinion on it. But we'll see what Brian Kelly likes. He likes to take the football. We'll see. I think the LSU defense is good enough to go ahead and put them out there, even without Haulcy, to start the game. So that's our Genesis opening drive here on this Friday. When we come back, Preston Guy, TigerBait.com, talking LSU Clemson next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp, getting a crew over to the house to watch LSU and Clemson. You got to feed that crew, don't you? Corks can help you. Call them today. Say, hey, need to feed about 25 people. They're coming over. Help us out. They are ready to roll. They got that crispy fried catfish, jumbo gulp shrimp, crispy shoestring fries. They've got all the fixins with your sauces, your coleslaw, your honey butter roll. Just check out the menu, corksfishandshrimp.com. See the deals that they've got for you in terms of catering. Paul and Michael, who started Kuyans across the river, have cut their teeth in the catering business. Kuyans is fantastic at it. They brought that over to Corks as well. So if you've got a watch party that's coming together and you're just now thinking, I really don't want to cook, I'd rather just pick something up, Corks can help you out with it. Check out that menu, corksfishandshrimp.com. If you want to get some dinner tonight, Corks is a great option. Government between Foster and Jefferson, corksfishandshrimp.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
Edition of the Hunt Palmer Show brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. Let's go out to the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Preston Guy from TigerBait.com with us on Fridays. We got Preston all year round on Fridays, but these seem to be more important conversations as we finally got a football game to talk about. Let's do it, Preston. How are you?
I am so glad we don't have to call and talk about. So what you think about the defensive tackles next year? It's football time, baby.
It surely is. Are you mad at Clemson?
No, I mean, you do what you can do to win a football game. I mean, it is. I would say if I'm mad at anybody, it's the NCAA. But Hunt, I have nothing more than speculation. It doesn't seem right that LSU could have just been completely blindsided by this. Clemson had no idea until some reporter, who's actually a pretty well-respected reporter, I just don't know who he is, for Clemson, put this out there into the air, and then, look, for 48 hours, someone had to know. Whether that was LSU knew and just hoped the NCAA would never say anything, and it's, again, speculation, I have no idea, or Clemson was saving it in their back pocket, I don't know. All I know is you're missing your starting safety for a top 10 matchup on the road, and that's not ideal. However, I will say this compared to how noisy some off seasons have been, it has been a relatively quiet off season, and it is good to see. Outside of him, you're relatively unscathed going into this game.
For sure. Let's talk about his replacement. I said in my opening segment, I don't have a strong lean between Toviano, Spears, and Gilbert going back to safety. I wouldn't be stunned if any of them played. Do you have a different take on that? Who do you think is going to be out there first?
I might go Spears just because he kind of shows you the most raw talent, most physical ability. But I also, Hunt, would not be surprised if they're rotating these guys because they're that close. I would probably lean toward it being of Spears and Gilbert. Maybe they go with Gilbert because he was a starter last year and he's got that experience. But don't be surprised if you see a number of guys. And in fact, don't be surprised if they're using them situationally. Like in this defensive set, we're going that guy. This defensive set, we're going that guy. I would say it's a by committee approach. That would be my best guess.
Look, this staff, this exact staff, same safeties coach, same defensive coordinator, went with the veterans last year, went with Major Burns, went with Sage Ryan, went with Jordan Gilbert. That tends to lean towards Jordan if you think that's kind of the way that they're going to operate this time around. But again, it's a different group of players, so we'll see what they decide to do. What does Clemson do offensively that you think gives LSU some significant concern?
Well, Klubnik can throw the ball around, make no mistake about it, and being down defensive back, and I would argue your defensive backfield, I think your linebackers and D-line are going to be very strong, so this comment is not a shot at them, but I think it was the weakest of your major units on defense. So I would be worried about Klubnik throwing it around. They do have some talented receivers, and you know, Klubnik is arguably the best quarterback in the country. I know Nussmeier also has a good argument for that as well, but Klubnik threw, I think, 36 touchdowns last year, so he's no slouch.
Yeah, 36 touchdowns, 6 picks. Of the passers that threw for 3,500 yards, he tied for the fewest interceptions. He had a good year last year for sure. I'm curious your thoughts on the LSU DBs in general, what you've seen in camp compared to the last couple of years, where I've written this and I've said this. LSU's pass defense was terrible the last 2 years statistically and in big spots. Do you think they're better?
Yeah, no, I think 11 for 11 is better, and that's even without Haulcy. I still think whoever's back there, I mean, you're talking about the two guys who you had last year plus a year of experience. So I think 11 for 11 are going to be improved this year. So, I think you should see substantial uptick in quality of play.
How about the defensive front against a very veteran Clemson offensive line, against the run, pass rush? Where do you lean there?
I'm sorry, say that one more time. You broke up on me.
Yeah, good. LSU's defensive front against a very veteran Clemson offensive line. Got a lot of starts there. How do you feel they stand up against the run as well as rush the passer when that opportunity comes?
Yeah, it's a veteran defensive front for Clemson, but Hunt, I actually have borderline unrealistic expectations for this defensive line. I think it's going to be a very, very good unit. I love what I see, particularly out of their edge rushers, and Gooden, what he brought this fall camp. He turned my head more so than I was expecting. So I think you're going to have a very good defensive line that's up for the task. It'll be certainly a great challenge, but I don't think Klubnik's going to sit back there and just have 5 and 6 seconds to throw. I think LSU is going to bring the heat, and I think the talent they have at linebacker also assists with that.
All right, let's go to the offensive side. In terms of identity, do you think this offense kind of looks the same as last year, or do they need to make a shift?
No, I mean, I didn't see much in fall camp to show me that there won't be wrinkles. I mean, it should be very different. I mean, we've seen all sorts of different packages. My anticipation would be certainly within the 30-yard marker, which is where the struggles just absolutely just LSU imploded at times once they got inside that 30-yard line. I would anticipate that that's where the offense starts to look drastically different. And, of course, you know, the other 70 yards of the field, I just expect that they're going to be able to call a more balanced game. I think Caden Durham, we're not waiting for him to emerge. He's emerged, and he looked like a threat all fall camp long. Harlem Berry looks strong. Caleb Jackson is still there. And I think, you know, I know this might sound crazy, but hopefully your offensive line is slightly better at run blocking, albeit not realistic to say they'll be better pass blockers, but hopefully they're a little better at opening lanes. But against Clemson, that might be a far-fetched dream because they have an insanely good defensive line.
They do. They had those guys last year and they couldn't stop the run. That's been my biggest question in this pregame study that we've done. I've asked multiple Clemson beat writers and radio guys about it, and their consensus is that the defensive coordinator was terrible and Tom Allen's going to fix it all. I'm skeptical of that too. I'm curious what this defensive line, they're great rushing the passer. What can they do in terms of stopping the run? How's your confidence in LSU's ability to run the ball tomorrow?
I mean, again, you know, yeah, you can nitpick on that all you want. LSU was abysmal.
Yes.
At run blocking last year. I mean, just horrid at run blocking. And that's with 4 NFL linemen. Now you have to wonder, okay, you're going to possibly roll out 5 new offensive linemen. And ideally, just by reshuffling the die and getting 5 new guys, like hopefully the run blocking is better, but we just don't know. And Hunt, I'm going to just be frank, at fall camp, I'm not sure I saw too much to inspire confidence. Even if this D-line is a more pass-rushing-centric D-line, I I don't know, Hunt. I don't know if you can expect it. Here's what I'm hoping. My hope is that they're able to get a push and get 100 yards rushing in this game. I think if you can run for 100 yards, that means your offense isn't clunky. That means you're able to convert short yardage situations. If you go out and you're running for less than 50 yards, man, you cannot rely on, Nussmeier throwing it 50 times in a game every time and win good football games on the road.
Because a couple of those are going to go to the wrong team, throw it that many times, which is kind of like what we saw in College Station. Again, what's your confidence level in Nussmeier's decision-making on Saturday night?
Yeah, I would say higher than the previous question. Nussmeier's a fifth-year veteran. Last year was his first year starting, and, of course, he made mistakes, particularly in games against quality defenses. And when the defense made him improvise, there was a few times where he just needed to tuck and run, take a sack maybe even, or throw the ball away, and he just was forcing things that weren't there oftentimes last year. I think it's mostly it's his improvisation that gets him in trouble. If you look at his film last year, it really wasn't a ton of, man, that guy was open. He just missed that throw. It's like he's on the run, panicking, putting something together, and he just threw it up to a guy who was in coverage, or he threw it to the running back while he's running and failed the running back because he's running out of the pocket. You got to work on the improvisation plays, and I think that they are working on getting him to address, hey, man, tuck it and run. I don't care if you get 2 yards. That's much better than, throwing a pick there. So I think Nussmeier will cut down on his turnovers. I expect we're going to see 8 or less interceptions just based on, improvement of play. Nussmeier, he's got that family connection to, watching film. I think he will cut down on turnovers. Now, that's not to say he won't throw a single pick against Clemson, but hopefully we can avoid a multi-turnover implosion.
All right, I'll give you 2 bullet points on this one. You can use them however you'd like. LSU wins on Saturday night if?
LSU wins on Saturday night if they can consistently push and run the ball. That's what I say. If you run for 125, I think the rest of the team is good enough to win this game. And there is a strong part of me that looks at, man, Clemson was 0-3 against the SEC last year, including South Carolina, who LSU beat. And I really do feel like LSU brought in more talent than Clemson did in this offseason. So there's part of me that wants to believe it, but then you look at the matchup. Their D-line's elite. Your O-line is suspect. You're on the road. Brian Kelly hasn't shown me much in openers. Hey, how about that for another? If they look organized like they have their T's crossed and I's dotted, they haven't had that in 5 years, then they'll win this game.
All right. If they win, we're going to be throwing a party around here around Monday and feeling like LSU's got a great chance to be a college football playoff contender. If they lose, is it big trouble?
Well, it looks pretty bleak based on history. I was trying to find the last national champion not to win their opener. You got to go back to 91. Colorado, who was a split champion, they tied in their opener. So I don't know that there's ever been someone to lose their opener and go on to win a championship. So that's a pretty damning statement. However, you could still win your conference. 12 teams make the playoffs. I think the 12-team playoff changes a lot of that. So I would say your hopes are still alive if you lose this game.
Tell everybody what y'all got going on at Tiger Bait this weekend.
Man, it is a crazy, chaotic week. Make sure to tune in to the Tiger Bait YouTube channel. Mike and I will be going live shortly thereafter the game. So we'll be putting all our stories on TigerBait.com. Tons of good stuff coming on. Y'all make sure to just tune in to TigerBait.com where you can find everything.
Enjoy the weekend of football, Preston. We'll talk next week. Thanks, man.
See you soon, Hunt.
TigerBait.com's Preston Guy with us on Fridays. Take a time out. When we come back, 32 bold predictions for the NFL. What's the Saints' bold prediction? We'll talk about it from ESPN next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. If you're sitting there at the office or driving around thinking, what am I going to do tonight? What am I going to do this weekend? How about Swing Easy Golf Club? Get some friends. Go on over to Swing Easy Golf Club on Segan right there by Perkins. Book a tee time and go in there and hang out. Hit some golf balls, play one of your favorite dream courses on the simulator, watch some football, drink some cold beer, have some wine, and just hang out at Swing Easy Golf Club. It's a fantastic place blow off a little steam in a comfortable, fun environment with your friends. I tell you every day that you can go in there and work on your game on the driving range, and you can do that this weekend too, but it kind of feels like a holiday weekend, a fun weekend. Pop in there and just have some fun. Go play Pebble Beach or Cypress Point on the simulator. Play St. Andrews on the simulator with some friends. Bring your clubs, drink some beer. It's always a great time at Swing Easy Golf Club. Memberships are available, both personal and corporate memberships. You like to entertain clients there. But go by and see it. It's brand new. The odds are, if you're driving around, you've never been to Swing Easy Golf Club, go see them. Segan, right there at Perkins. It's Swing Easy Golf Club. Check them out online at swingeasygcbr.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
SEC picks against the spread coming up at the top of the hour, about 25 minutes from right now. ESPN.com has a piece up on the NFL homepage that is bold predictions for every team in the NFL. And I was reading through a few of them, but obviously the one that we're going to stick on here is the one for the Saints. And I would not suggest that this is the boldest take I've ever seen. And that's okay. You don't have to say something ridiculous to get people to click it. But essentially what the take is that Spencer Rattler is going to get a pretty long leash as the Saints starting quarterback. And again, I don't think that's some sort of massive hot take that's being doled out here. The genesis of the story says, look, that Rattler won a lot of people over. He's outperformed expectations early. If he plays like he did in the preseason, don't be surprised if there's a long rope for Shuck. It does mention that Shuck is older than your average rookie. When you're talking about a player that's 27 years old, you would like to get them to the field pretty quickly. But don't be surprised if Rattler is given a very long leash. And I wanted to kind of comment not on the validity of that take, but more so on, okay, let's just toss about some hypotheticals about when Tyler Shough may get a shot. Because I've said this. I expected Rattler to get the start. I would be stunned, flatline stunned, if Tyler Shough does not start a game this year. Because I think the only way that would happen is if Rattler played excellent football and the Saints were right in the thick of the playoff hunt to win the division. In which case, you've got a great situation on your hands. That's a great thing. My gut tells me it's probably going to be pretty bumpy. I think there are going to be some losses, as I think we all do. And I think eventually you're going to want to get a look at the guy that you drafted in the second round. And that's just normal quarterback handling by any organization. So I looked at the schedule, and as I look at the schedule, starting Rattler makes even more sense when you look at the schedule. I think it makes sense to start Spencer Rattler in the opener just because he's been out there before and he started games in the NFL, and Tyler Shough's never seen that. So you start him in the two opening games that are at home against Arizona and San Francisco. Then in weeks 3 and 4, you go play at two of the most difficult places to play in the NFL. It's very difficult to play in Seattle because it's loud. And it's very difficult to play at Buffalo because they're just really good. And those are weeks 3 and 4. I think at that point in week 5, if you're really not going well, I think that would be a reasonable time to go to Tyler Shough in week 5 with the Giants at home and then the Patriots at home. That's a fairly soft landing spot for Shough for his first two starts, October 5th, October 12th, a month into his rookie season. But if that's not where you put him in, I think you might look to the bye week, quite honestly, and that is at week 11. The Saints have a relatively late bye week here. They're going to play 10 weeks in a row. But you tell me, beyond what I just went through, where the good spot is to toss Shough in. Because you start with Arizona and San Francisco at home, and you figure that's going to be Rattler, obviously. You're at Seattle and at Buffalo. I'm throwing Rattler into those games. If it's not New York and it's not New England, At that point, afterwards, you're at Chicago, which is a decently tough place to play. And I think that's going to be a pretty decent football team. They got a brutal division, so they might not be a playoff team, but they should be decent. Then you've got Tampa at home, who's the best team in your division. Then you're on the road at the Rams, and you're on the road at Carolina. I realize that Carolina's not going to be great. The Rams should be pretty good. The Rams got after you in a practice session, we're told. So that's not a great spot to put him in against that front. I think the bye week, because after the bye week, you're home against Atlanta. Then you're at Miami. That's not exactly a hornet's nest, play in Miami. You're at Tampa, which is not great, but then you're home for Carolina and the Jets. I think that's 3 out of 5 at home, and one of the road games is Miami. I think there are 2 spots to get Tyler Shuck in comfortably. Week 5 for Giants, Patriots back-to-back at home in weeks 5 and 6, or week 12 after the bye, home Atlanta. I think those are the most likely. Now, as I always say, very rarely does anything go exactly according to plan. And if you're making a change, things aren't going great. And I'm not here to suggest you're just going to continue to play out the string and let games go and go as you roll up losses. And again, the reason I'm saying this is not because I think the Saints are going to lose every game. If they're playing great, there is no quarterback change. There's nothing to talk about. So the entire genesis of this conversation is when things go poorly, this is what we have to talk about. And I feel like tossing them in there at Chicago, then against Tampa at home, and then at the Rams in that defensive front, that's just a bad spot. That's a bad spot to put a first-time quarterback in. So I think I've kind of pigeonholed it into, okay, if it's a disastrous start, you go week 5. If it's not a disaster, but it is a little bit bumpy and you're ready to get another look, week 12. I think that's it, because I think that you've got a nice runway of manageable opponents starting week 12. Keep in mind, the Saints are playing a last place schedule. You and Carolina were the worst. So at this point, you don't know what's going to happen with quarterback management. I think Spencer Rattler does have a leash with his team. I don't think they're purely going to Spencer Rattler to save Shuck. I think there is some intrigue in the way that he's played. I think he's probably outperformed some of the expectation within the organization, because if they had high expectation for Spencer Rattler, they're probably not taking a quarterback in the second round. I think they took a quarterback in the second round to compete with Rattler, and they're probably impressed with what Rattler's done to win that job. Then at this point, okay, when does it become that time? And I think that's it. My personal take on this, if you're making me throw a dart at the wall to figure out when this quarterback change is going to come, if it does, I would say week 12. I think you give Tyler Shuck the last 7 games of the season. At that point, you saw 10 games of Rattler. You saw 7 games of Shuck. I don't know what your record is at that point, but at that point, you feel like you've got a reasonable sample size of both. There aren't a lot of question marks as to how quarterback A and quarterback B operate Kellen Moore's system at that point. You've gotten a sizable sample size from both. And I think that is one of the goals of this season, is to get a sizable sample size from both quarterbacks unless Rattler takes it and absolutely runs. That's the goal. So that's what I think the Saints are going to have to try to put in front of them. I'm always curious about conversations like this internally. I'm curious if NFL organizations run like they do press conferences where they're just saying, hey, we're committed to Rattler. We're going to go out there and win week 1, and that's what we're committed to right now, winning in week 1. Or if there is a meeting between Kellen Moore and Doug Nussmeier and Mickey Loomis, and they sit around and go, okay, we're going to get a look at these quarterbacks. We feel like, the odds that they're great are not awesome. You got a late round pick in Rattler and a second round pick in Shuck, and he's not played before. So we really need to evaluate these guys. We'd like to win, but we need to evaluate. I don't think that meeting happens. I would love it if it did. It sounds to me like it'd be sound planning if it did happen, but I don't know. Maybe they're just as focused as they say in press conferences. Rattler's our quarterback. Shuck's the backup. We're going to play Arizona. And if that's all you're looking at as an organization, I think that's a little bit short-sighted, but I understand that's what you say in press conferences too. If you're letting Hunt decide, let Rattler play for 10 weeks, evaluate that. If you need to make a change, do it the bye week. Let Shuck play the last 7. Let's see what you got. That's my take on how to handle the quarterback situation this year. Of course, wins and losses matter. Of course, injuries happen. Of course, evaluating guys based on the surrounding cast and how that injury situation plays out like it did last year, which was terrible, matters. But I think that there needs to be some discussion about a roadmap to getting Tyler Shuck to the field ultimately if things get bumpy, and I think that kind of lays it out right there. So that's your look at the New Orleans Saints here on this Friday. No practice for the Saints today. They'll get a little bit of work in this weekend, and then they'll report for duty, get ready to roll, starting with the practice on Tuesday and Wednesday for their opener at home against Arizona on CBS a week from Sunday at noon. If you're looking for our Saints content, check it out. Hunt on Saints, wherever you find your podcast. And Ross Jackson got them covered over there at LouisianaSports.net. LSU lost a 5-star yesterday. What does it mean? We'll talk about it next.
The Hunt Palmer Show. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
Hour number 1 here. Just a little bit of news. Wanted to kind of shoehorn this into the end of the hour. Tristan Keys, 5-star receiver, number 1 wide receiver in the nation, decommitted from LSU, committed to Clemson. Not Clemson. Got Clemson on the mind. Got Orange on the mind. Flipped to Tennessee yesterday. This was a long time in the making. Keys had committed to LSU in March. He had been taking visits. He had been to Miami officially. He had been to A&M officially. He had visited Ole Miss 6 times. He had been to Tennessee a number of times as well. And the feeling was that this was pretty imminent. I'll tell you that this was so not shocking that GoVols 24/7 had a podcast uploaded immediately when it happened. Not like, oh, we recorded this when it happened. Like, it was already ready to go, and they knew. Candidly, there may have been a story written on LouisianaSports.net a couple days ago. This was very much expected over the last 48 hours. It's very disappointing for LSU to have that happen to a high-profile member of your class. You do have 2 very, very highly thought of Louisiana wide receivers in your class with Kenny Darby from Airline and Jabari Mack from down in New Orleans. But Keys was the crown jewel of your wide receiver class. Big size, great speed, and a guy from Mississippi. You've had a lot of success recruiting the state of the Mississippi over the years, but it felt like the writing was on the wall that he was going to move on, and he did. So you're not left without wide receivers. You've got a couple, and you've recruited a couple in each of the last 2 classes. You're going to have a lot of playing time available at wide receiver next year, however, because Aaron Anderson is going to move on. Chris Hilton is going to move on. Barian Brown is going to move on. Nick Anderson is likely to go, even though he could come back. I mean, he could come back. If he doesn't have a very good year, he may not be very draftable. If he has a great year, he's going to move on. Kyle Parker is expected back, and you've got some of those young guys like Kylan Billiot, like Teron Francis, those guys. So you've got some young players that haven't had a lot of experience, but you're going to lose a lot of your key pass catchers from this team. You thought maybe Keys could be a guy that immediately comes in and competes for a little bit of playing time at wide receiver. Appears he will be on Rocky Top instead of here in Baton Rouge. So LSU's class takes a bit of a hit there with a 5-star. Again, it's not as visceral a reaction as like Bryce Underwood, because you felt like it was potentially coming. And to be quite frank, you still got 3.5 months until he signs on the dotted line. He could go anywhere. This is a guy who has very much seen a lot of places, has shown interest in a lot of places, is okay with leaving home, clearly, if he committed to LSU and Tennessee from the state of Mississippi. So this recruitment's probably not over. We'll see how the next few months go, what kind of NIL packages are put together, and where Keys decides he wants to be. But LSU was at a pretty high profile commitment class with a number of 5-stars there, and Keys decides to move along. So we'll see if LSU can fill with another wide receiver, or if they look elsewhere. But wanted to kind of shoehorn that into the end of the hour. Beck, you got a pen handy over there?
Let's see. I think I can find one. Maybe
You might be able to do. I was going to give you some information on this question I'm going to ask you in the last 2 minutes of the hour.
Okay, go ahead.
I've got a poll that's up. I asked how LSU fans are feeling on Twitter in terms of confidence.
Okay.
I've got the percentages that each of the votes has gotten. I want to see if you can identify what percentage goes with what.
All right.
The leader's 36%.
Okay.
Second place is 29%.
All right.
Third place is 24%.
Okay.
Last place is 11%.
All right. And so what are those options again?
Your options are, and I would win in order of confidence, Tigers by 100, so feeling incredible. Feeling good. Feel okay, but bad matchup. And then 6 straight opening L. How do you think those played out?
Okay. I'm going to say LSU by 100. I'm going to say 29.
Nope.
24.
Nope.
Wow. 36?
Nope.
I'm going to say, there's no way.
Tigers by 100 is last. It's
I knew
11%.
there was no way it was the top. I would be shocked by that. And then I would guess.
What do you think the top is?
The top is probably feel good, but it's a bad matchup.
Feel okay, but bad matchup leads the way at 36%. It's moving, so the numbers aren't the same as I just gave you. But feel okay, but bad matchup is first. What's second?
Second is probably they're going to lose, but they'll be all right.
No, the other 6 straight opening L or feeling good are the only 2 left.
Okay. 6 straight is probably the second highest.
Nope, feeling good, but still. People think they're going to lose. That's 59% saying L. Interesting. That's it for hour number 1. We'll come back with some SEC picks against the spread. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is the website. Every car that is on the lot is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. They just go the extra mile at Genesis, and it's so great to work with great people, right? And you're going to do that with Genesis. You go in, their brand ambassadors are going to treat you like a guest, not a customer. They're there to help you. They think about every single detail. That includes building a climate control room to bring the cars in out of the 5,000-degree parking lot so that you can look over all the features without standing in the sun. It's that kind of customer service that goes with an incredible line of vehicles that separates Genesis. You've probably never been behind the wheel of a Genesis. You've probably never been to Airline at PQ to their facility. When the time comes for you to get behind the wheel of a new vehicle, which may be right now and it may be a year from now, check them out at Genesis of Baton Rouge. Their Airline at PQ, the entire inventory is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com.